This episode of Believe is brought to you by Cryptid Coffee Co. Use promo code BELIEVE on checkout for 10% off their Angry Yowie coffee blend. Head over to cryptid.com.au to check them out.
It was just the most massive thing I've ever seen. To tell you the honest truth, I thought, well, we're the only ones left on this planet. Something's happened. We've missed something here.
The fear that went in me when I seen it was just like the feeling. I'd say it was fear, but I've never felt that feeling before in my entire life.
It's a weird feeling, like you can't explain it when you don't know. You feel like you're being followed, but you don't know what it is.
We had two to our right, another one in front of us, another one to the left, and another one just across the road, shaking the daylights out of the tree. All we get was big red eyes.
I remember waking up and looking at the end of the bed, and there was a figure there, almost insect-like, and then I blacked out.
Welcome to the show, everyone. My name is Cade Moyer, and you are listening to the Believe Paranormal and UFO podcast. If you have had an encounter and would like to share it, please get in touch with me. My email address is believepod@gmail.com. If you enjoy the podcast, be sure to leave us a rating or review wherever you listen, and head on over to our website, believepod.com, and consider becoming a member to get bonus episodes and video content. Tonight I'm joined by Neil, and Neil had some very unusual activity happening on quite a large property out in Western Queensland, and he comes on the show to share what happened there and actually so much more that's really been happening to him since he was quite a young child. Neil, welcome to the show, mate.
Thank you.
I was flabbergasted by your emails that you shot through, because there's some pretty intense stuff that kind of goes on in your life, and what is really quite interesting is the fact that you were living on a 2,000 acre size property, which is enormous for kind of the city folk like me, who would only dream of having a slither of that. But being on a property like that would be quite an isolated experience, I imagine, in its own. But then, you do have this weird activity going on there. So, Neil, are you kind of able to tell us what was going on this property that you had out in Western Queensland?
Yeah, it happened, like, it didn't happen all the time, kind of. It was just different times, maybe once or twice in a month or whatever these things happen. But there's one incident that I can tell you about. I used to go to bed just with a DVD on. And it used to be like a comedy one before I went to sleep. And I used to put the timer on, so when it'll go off and it's just a bit of noise in the background, so it can help me sleep. And I was doing that, and it's this one night. I remember I had my back towards the TV, and I don't know. I just felt like something entered my room, and as it did, it come from like the side of the TV. It was like this thing that come in. It was like it was using this, like all things, it's got to have a power to come from a different dimension to another dimension, or to this dimension here, this plane here kind of thing. And it froze me. It froze me, and I couldn't move. And this has happened, once or twice, before this has happened, but this was really strong, this one. And I tried to talk. I couldn't talk, and I could see this thing. I could see it, and even though I had my back towards him, or it anyway, I could see it coming towards me, and its nails would have been about 10 or 15 centimeters long, and all I seen it was coming from behind me, and it was just like wriggling its finger, and it was coming up in the back, and it was just about to stick its nails into my back, and then that's when I woke up. I got out of that state of being paralyzed kind of thing, and then I just got up. I just realised what happened kind of thing, and it wasn't a fright or anything, or and I wasn't dazed or nothing, but I realised what happened, and I've always been told with things like that, like especially coming from a funeral or, you know, going other places outside, is that, you know, usually I'll say things at the gate that I come in, is that, you know, I leave all that stuff outside, whatever's following me or whatever, I leave outside. You know, you're not welcome in my, you know, in my house and in my surroundings kind of thing. So that's what I did with this thing. I opened all the doors up, and, you know, what I was told, I asked it to leave. And I asked it to leave with love, and I've always been told you never get angry with spirits because that's what they feed off. So you just send them away with love, and they go. And so I went outside, and I, you know, I threw down a couple of cigarettes, mate, after that, and all I could see in the back of me, I was facing, you know, out towards darkness kind of, you know, and all I could see and feel in the back of me was this big black figure just walked at the back of me, and this chills just went up my spine kind of thing. And, you know, I had a couple more smokes after that, and then I went back to bed kind of thing. And yeah, it was an experience. I know that, and and that's the thing about it. You know, it was like an adrenaline rush. That's what it was. You know, you're scared, and you know, sometimes when you're scared, mate, you become the best that you are. Sometimes. Yeah.
Do you think you froze because it was a fear, or do you feel like you were frozen because this thing was making you not be able to move?
Yeah, it was it. As soon as it entered from, and like I said, Bob, it was when I was asleep. It was like it was just someone just hit the door, and it frightens you kind of thing, and it wakes you up. That's how it was. But I was still asleep. I had my eyes closed, and I could still see it. Like it was like in my third eye, and I had my back towards this thing.
Have you ever experienced like out of body experiences or anything like that before?
I have, through meditation. I have.
Did that feel different to what you experienced here?
Oh yeah, of course. Like with that one, you're out of your body, and you know you're using the elements that are around you to get to different places. I understand that, but that day, like it was, Kate, mate. Like I said, it was a fright, mate. It just come out of nowhere. So I ended up telling a friend of mine about it. And the first thing he said to me, and this fella, like he's an old fella, and, you know, I used to talk to him, you know, a lot about things. And the first thing he asked me, he said, "What did you ask?" I said, "Okay. I understand where you're going with that then." And, yeah, no, I did ask something. Yeah, and that's where it's happened. And then, you know, like I said, I regretted that going, you know, but then it did come back probably a couple of weeks later. It happened 3 other times on that property.
Do you mind me asking what it was that you asked it?
Yeah, no, there was something. There was something I asked to heal me.
So this thing came back multiple times after this?
Oh, yeah, even when I moved back to my hometown.
Really? So you moved to a completely different part of the country, and this thing followed you?
Yeah. The first one I had these was up North Queensland. And I remember, yeah, something happened in that, and it was, and that's what really scared me at that time was then, and yeah. And this was during the morning. This was this would have been at 6 o'clock in the morning.
Oh, really?
Yeah, mate.
That just breaks all the rules of scary stories, doesn't it?
Oh, no, it's what it was. Yeah, no, I remember asking what this. I asked a question, and I've always done that. Is, you know, I'm always outside, Kate. I'm always under the stars. You know, I meditate under the stars. I just sit out in the stars and just look at different constellations that come over, and then, you know, the different seasons that are coming through, and just ask questions of what there is, and you know, even help sometimes. And that's what part of all this dreaming is all about, is that your answers come into your dreams. But, you know, the symbolism and then what you take out of that, you know, it just, that's what the reality you're living in. You know, even though we're in this reality here, but it's part of what's in your life at that time. if that makes sense.
No, it really does. It makes perfect sense to me there. Did this thing feel like it was negative at all to you?
No, that's the thing about the only thing that scared me because he froze me. That was a scary bit. I wouldn't say scary, but it was unusual. You know, like you're laying there and then you can see this thing, well, with my back towards it and coming towards me, and I can see that through my third eye kind of thing. And that was
Were your other encounters similar to that, where it was a bit of a third eye experience, but you weren't frozen?
No, it always happened like that. Like one time I slept out in the lounge, and I turned the lights and that off, and because I was that tired, I just laid in the lounge, and I don't know how long I was asleep, Kate. That's the thing. I don't know how long over this time. I don't know how long that took in that moment. That could have took a couple of hours. To me, it only took 5-10 minutes. But this could have been a longer time. But that night, when I was sleeping in the lounge, I could see this thing in the dark coming towards me. It did the same thing. As soon as it entered into this this reality here, this plane kind of thing. That's when I seen it. It just like this come out of nowhere, and it was in the same where the TV was in the room. It was in the same spot where on the outside, on the other hallway, going into the lounge kind of thing. That's where the same spot where it come out of. So whether there was something there that made that. But it was on the other side of the wall outside of my room.
That's interesting.
And I
wonder if there's like a totem or something like that, like something that draws it from that point in that house.
Yep. Yeah. See, I didn't realise that until I'm telling you now. Like, things come back and you have to think of things, and that's how it was.
So the other encounters that you had with this thing, like they didn't scare you or anything like that. They were you just felt at peace with this thing visiting you?
No, it I was just I can't explain it. Okay, like it just ended up when it came into my presence kind of thing. That's the thing about it. It froze you. So if that thing is it would have been about 10 metres away, and if it could freeze you from there, like this thing has a bit of power and it knows about human behaviour. It knows about human, just how we're made, mate. And it's like all things, even a doctor, mate. A doctor gives you anaesthetic to, sometimes to take the pain away and that too. But, this thing here, like it did use, I don't know what it used. And that's the thing about it. I don't know what it used to make me, and I don't know if anyone knows how they do this, far out. But it's interesting how this all happens.
Yeah, for me, just hearing of experiences like this, because I hear them fairly often, and it almost seems scarier, the fact that you've lost control of your ability to do what you want, like you've lost your free will, and
yes,
you have no control over what happens next. To me,
yep,
that would almost be more terrifying than you seeing like an entity or something like that.
Yep. Yeah, no, and that's the thing. I know, and I've been told this, by a lot of wholesalers. You know what I mean by the wholesalers, like elders, black and white, and it's the same thing. Like I was saying, you send things with love. It's always about love, and you've just got to, just sit in that and know that it'll come through, kind of thing. But for something to happen like that, Kate, like like even today, I look back on it and I just think, I thought I lived a boring life, but some of the things that happened to me in my life, you realise, you're blessed with this stuff.
That's a really good way to look at it, because a lot of people would consider having encounters like this a curse, because most people go through their whole lives living fairly vanilla, days in, days out. And most people would kind of wish to have an encounter like this. And what it would really do is just turn the paradigm. It would shift that paradigm for so many people that you just can't go back to a normal life, I feel.
Yeah. And like I was saying, before this program, is that, that we've just been dumbed down and told, these things aren't there. And it's like, like I said to you before, religion, religion has a lot to do with it. Now, I'm not saying, what you believe in is what you believe in, but I'm just coming from my experience of how I grew up in a religious house, and a lot of that stuff was brought on by what was taught in the church, and a lot of that, and it took me a while to get away from that and unlearn some of the stuff that I learned, but not saying that I didn't take anything out of that, and taking it as a spiritual thing out of any book that you read or anything that is here. You're just taking things out of it, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I really do. And it's quite interesting because, like, did you ever find that having a highly religious upbringing, like, did you find that, how do I say this? Did you find that ever kind of head-butted with any traditional values that you may have had?
Yeah. Well, that's what I mean. That's all I knew. And then, at that time, when we'd leave the house, we were underneath at the roof and we'd just go to church and that. But, yeah, and it was, and then, like I was saying, you had to unlearn some of the stuff, and then I'm trying to think of that word, that brainwash. There's a lot of brainwashing, and like my family, we were in church so many times a week, that's all we knew. But even I remember when I was a young fellow, because it was scary. Because that's what I mean. I could see things in the dark, and that I knew things were in the dark when I was a young fella. And every time I used to say that to Mum and Dad, and they used to go off at me, saying, that's just, in a way, like it's the devil. And then I remember one night, and I still remember it to this day, and I'll probably be about 7. I went outside, and sometimes at that time, the toilets were at the back, and I walked out the back, and I could see, as I was walking back, I was stood under the light as I was going around the corner, and something just hit me from behind, and I turned around, and I could see this old fella, this old Aboriginal fella. He was standing there with a fence, and he just pointed at me. And all of a sudden, I got this thing in my throat where I couldn't swallow anymore. And I tried to get the drink, and it was like, and I've never had a knife in my throat, but it just felt like something was stabbing in my throat from that old man.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's fair income. And I went up, and I was scared. And I heard, I was listening to not listening, I was that fucking scared. I told my mum, and she smacked me and said, stop talking silly. And that night I went to bed, just later on I went to bed and I couldn't sleep because this thing was stuck in my throat.
So it was still affecting you later into the night?
Yeah, it was still in there.
Wow.
And every time I drank, and every time I was telling my mum about it, don't talk silly, kind of thing. And that's how it was. And I look back on it now, and I just, to me, when you do something like that, and, like I was saying to you before, I don't believe in coincidences. I believe everything happens for a reason, or what you are, both negative and positive. But your throat has something to do with your voice. So whether that thing stopped me from saying anything, or just keeping me shut, keeping me quiet, you know what I mean? And then I realised later on, and like I said, I spoke to an old fellow about this, and he just said, well, that person, or whatever, that entity didn't want you to say anything because of, how would you say it, Cade? Instead of, I don't want to give secrets away either, but every person that's born into this earth might have in their cells and in their DNA, might they have memories of past lives, I believe. and things that have happened to them, you know, in different parts of their life kind of thing. But also, you know, there's this world, this universe is too big, mate, to just sit here in one night and try and explain things. You know, that's what I mean. I'm not a scientist. I'm not none of this stuff, but I know in my heart of things that are around what you use, like you know, like that incident that happened out there. You know, these entities and these things, you know, they're using the unseen forces that are around us that we don't see as human eyes.
And one thing that I this would almost be a catchphrase for this podcast is that, you know, I think the Australian bushes, it's so alive. There's so much energy out there and so much spiritual energy that, you know, it doesn't surprise me that, you know, you have these types of encounters in, you know, these really far out and wide spread out places. And now a quick word from our sponsor. Also, are you wanting more content? Why not become a Believe Plus member? You'll get access to exclusive podcasts and episodes that aren't available to the public. Not only that, you'll also get our regular feed without any ads. Head to believepod.com/plus to sign up today for just $5 a month.
And that's what I mean, mate. Like, you know, some of the stuff that I've, you know, heard of your podcast and that, you know, like some of this stuff is just, you know, just in the bush, but then some of it's not far from, you know, towns and that too. You know, like, I don't know, what's it with Bathurst, mate? Oh, mate,
that is... It is a crazy, crazy place out that way, out that Hillland area. Holy moly. Yep. It's on my go-to list for spooky places because I think I've had 3 or 4 people come on the podcast from that area with very unique and unusual encounters.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know, like you're saying, mate, like you know, the bush in that and what's around it, see, and that happened. Getting back to that story of it, I was just, and then it come again probably about a couple of weeks later, and it come in. I was in the room at that time, and it come and like I said, in the same spot, okay, it just come into this dimension again, and then that's when I started. I knew it was coming, and then it froze me for a little bit. Then probably about, I don't know, 10, 20 seconds, that's it. And then I just snapped out of it. And I end up sitting up. And I just said, you know, the same thing. I end up coming to go outside. But then, and then that stopped. That stopped for a while. Well, not stopped for a while, but like I said, I moved back to my hometown. And it it followed me here. And I was sleeping one night and you know, just about to fall, not just about to fall asleep, I think I was asleep. And like I say to you, when these things happen, I don't know how long it is or if it's an hour or, you know, sometimes time, there's no time in these things that you can't see sometimes. Or you can't, or you don't know what time it is. That's what I mean. Like, it could have been 20 minutes, it could have been 10 minutes. All I remember is that I had the bed. And I always sleep to the room, to the door. I always sleep with my face, you know, towards the door, and that's how it was. And I could feel the thing walking in. And I had the door shut in my room. I could feel this thing walking, and it just kept walking and just walked straight through my door. And that's when I knew, like, that little started to freeze me. That's when I knew that thing was there. So I ended up, you know, I started talking to it. And that's when I started getting braver with it, tell you the truth. And I asked, I said, what are you doing here? You know, I don't know you. Then that's when it stopped. So I ended up opening the doors up and letting it out again. And then, you know, probably about 2 weeks later, no, it didn't happen for a couple of months. And then all of a sudden I started, you know, I was sleeping out in the lounge watching TV. And then it happened again. I felt that thing being frozen again. So then I just started playing, and I always remember that. I remember people were saying to me that, you know, the universe, the law of the universe is of things like this is that your command if you command something to appear, it has to appear because it's obeying by this law. And it's the same, the same with all things. We obey and abide by different laws of the universe. And this is what happened that night. And I asked, what was it? What do you want? Who are you? Up here. And it just left. It just didn't do anything. As soon as it came, it went. And then it happened again that night. It come again. And I just said, I'm not afraid of you. Show me who you are. And it just left again. So that night, that was when I was out in the land, 3 times it come. And it just like it walked in, and then it knew what I was going to say, and then it walked out again. And it just went. And I haven't had one since. And I hope talking to you, it doesn't come back again. But no, I think I've got something I want to, it will happen again, but at a time when it's meant to be. I believe that. And, I have something prepared for this conversation I'm going to have with it.
Has it ever communicated with you verbally or anything like that in a way that you can understand it?
No. And that's the thing. It's just a present. And just a present, sorry. It was just there. You knew it was there. But communicating with it, I had no communication with it. The only communication I had was, I was talking, but it wasn't talking back to me. The only communication was a presence in that room.
I really have no words for it because, I've never really heard of an entity having such an attachment that it just comes back over and over and over, regardless of where you are. And this one, it almost seems like it wants to be let into your life, but you have that control over it now, which, in my mind, I think that's a positive thing. Yeah,
and that's you're gonna hear me say like the old people, and what I mean by that is just the elders that I spoke to within my life, and a lot of them have told me stuff about things like this, and just different things of how you control things, Kate. And I was told, I spoke to someone about this, and they just said next time always put salt on the window sills. Always put it at waist height because they can't come over that. Yeah, I was told, and even putting salt in the door and that. But yeah, and I just that's the sort of it wasn't. It wasn't being harmful to me or anything, but it was just there, and it was like anything. If you've experienced something like that, it's got to be scary the first time, man. Yeah. But then after that stopped. But then, I remember I was having Christmas over the sunny coast, and I had to come back home because I had dogs I had to feed every second, third day kind of thing. I ended up coming home, and then, I got on just on dusk when the sun was going down, but still a bit of light where I could, feed the animals and that. So I ended up, locking the animals up, the chooks and then whatever else, and my dogs and cat, and I ended up going to bed, mate. And at that time, the bed was at a different angle kind of thing, up against a different wall. And as I was that tired, Kate, I just, I never had a shower or anything. As soon as I got home, I just said, nah, stuff it, I'm going to go straight to bed. And I thought, nah, I better have a shower. So I ended up having a shower, and then I just started hearing this little clicky noise. And it was just like, I don't know what the fuck is that? That sounds funny. And I thought it was my cat eating something. And then I was just, after that, I got out. I was in it while I was having a shower, mate. And then I got out, and then, I put my clothes on and then just started walking out. And I still hear it. Still hear this. I walked outside, nothing there. And okay, and I just, whatever it is kind of thing. And I'm just trying to make sense of what that was, and I just thought, I'm just being tired. And then I laid into bed, and then as soon as I closed my eyes, I seen in the corner, the same thing with the third eye. Whether that was it or I don't know, that's what I mean. And Dale, Queensland is at that time, and Dale, Queensland, this one that I was in was built in the 1930s, and it had a high roof. So this thing here, when I closed my eye, I could see this thing. It was like a praying mantis, the face of a praying mantis, and it was its back was bending over, and it was still touching the ceiling, and it was talking in that little clicky noise. And I stopped and I looked at it, and I could see it, and that's how it was. But I didn't know what it was saying or it was trying to communicate with me or anything. But it just how long it was, Kate, I don't know. I really don't know. Like these times and that, like so they, sometimes there's no time if you're in a different dimension kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that, I come out, and then as soon as I opened my eyes, I can see this it was like a smoke. It wasn't a ball of smoke, it was just a smoke that just disappeared.
So
and I just got up.
You saw this thing in your third eye, but when you actually opened your eyes, you saw this smoke in the room.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
wow.
And then that's when the same thing, I just got up and I asked to leave. And like now, looking back on it now, I'm asking, I could have been having a conversation with these things for a long time now. But just at that time, I was still, I think, when you go through a lot of things in your life, I know, like depression and that. Like I had a lot of depression in my life, and this is when a lot of these things happen. And at that time, like I was saying, there was things going on in my life at that time, and that's when they usually came, and whether that's coming on to that, on different stages of my life, I had that depression, and different things that happened, different places that I've told you, and then after that, mate, it just left, and but like that's not the end of it, Kate. Mate, it just. I was in a town not far from the place I was staying, and I was I was talking to a lot of people and then reading a lot of stuff, and all like things, what you read you attract, and a lot of stuff I was reading about was aliens or whatever that people call them aliens, but they're off-world beings, mate. That's what they are, and all I remember sitting down watching this TV, and then all I heard was, go outside. Just go outside. So I ended up going outside, and I looked to the right, and on top of this roof, the next door neighbour was this spaceship. And it had like a rectangle, and as you come down to the bottom, it was like a circle. There was two of them, and they were red. And it just went off and on, off and on. I didn't see it disappear. I didn't see it take off. It didn't take off. All it was just disappeared. And I just looked at that and I just think, geez. And you could hear that there was a little noise about it. Like a little buzzing noise. And this is just in the local, I don't know if anyone else seen that. I don't know.
When you say they were on your neighbour's roof, do you mean like they were actually on the roof, or were they kind of like floating above it?
Hovering above it.
Wow.
Yeah, and this was in a local town.
How big do you think they were?
I don't know. I really don't know. But I've on that property now, when I went, I've seen a few there, and there was one. Oh, geez, I'm trying to think of how big that house was, but it was. In the yard that's around it, there was one about, it would have been about an acre, I reckon. An acre or 2 acres that was in that yard. And that's how big that that ship was over the top of me.
Really?
I could see, yeah. And that's what it did. But the thing about it was only there for me to see, for me to acknowledge it and notice it. And after that, like there was a lot of things going on at that time. Which if I tell you something, I know I'd give myself away. But there was a lot of industries out that way of doing things. And they were putting a lot of stuff to the environment and whatever else. And there's a few things going on. And I was talking to a freelance journalist over in WA. And we were talking about what was going on there. And I said to her, I said, this is the country that we live on or anywhere. I said, we're destroying something that don't belong to us. We've got to keep this in our generation of the children that are coming through, and that's all it was about. Was about the children coming through, what we were talking about, and the destruction that's been happening. And as I was talking to her, and all of a sudden in the corner of my eye, I seen this thing, and it was going around in a circle. The lights were going around in a circle. It just appeared from nowhere, okay? And mate, I don't know if it was fear that night, but I've never experienced anything like that in my life. It would have been about 20, 30 metres away, and it was hovering above a tree. And I seen it, and it would have been about for 15 minutes. That's how long 15 seconds, sorry, about that thing, that light that was just going around. And why I got scared, it wasn't because I looked at that. It was the power that was coming from it. That's what scared me. And I've never, sometimes, when you can feel a big speaker, and if it's loud, you can feel that beat coming off it. I'm not saying that's what was it, but it was just like this energy that's come off it. And it was powerful.
It's something that I hear in some UFO encounters, Neil, where people feel like the atmosphere changes. And
yep.
I feel like that's exactly what you're saying here, is that that whole surrounding area, it just felt charged, full of energy.
Yep. Yeah. And then I end up speaking to a few other people, around, the towns and that. The people that I confident in talking to at that time, like I was saying before, some people, they want to ridicule you and think that you're going crazy and that, but, I choose who I talk to. And they were saying at that time there was a lot of action out that way. And people around that area were seeing things too.
Do you think that's because they were disturbing the natural land that was attracting these UFOs?
I think so. And those and that's the thing about it, like with everything that's going on now, Kate, like what we've been taught, from a certain age to where we are, and where we are in our life, we're just brainwashing a lot of things, and I believe with this stuff here now that goes on, is that we've blocked something in our brain not to see these things, and this comes from not being who you are, and like I was saying before, what's in your DNA and what you should be doing, instead of living. And it's living this Western life that we live now,
Oh, 100%. I'm a massive believer that, the pop culture, the zeitgeist is a massive influence on, people's perception of, what they see, how they interpret it, and how they react to it. Because, it's really no secret that there was a massive misinformation campaign essentially done worldwide regarding UFOs, that, if you did see one, you were loony. And that's just not how it is.
No. And then, that's, that night, like that night now, and then it was, it was not, like I said, mate, I'll tell you what, you got to be thankful for these things, mate. You know, that's what I mean. Like, if I die tomorrow, I know that I've done something, I've seen something. I know that there's something else.
And I think that's a really positive way to go from these encounters, because, you've said that not all of them were bad, but not all of them were good in the sense that, there was a sense of, I guess, uncertainty attached to some of them, and to walk away from those with the sense of, pride and feeling lucky. I think that's incredible to have that installed within you.
Yeah, no. Like I was saying, some of your podcasts, mate, I've probably heard most of them, and then some of the people that are in there, talking about what's going on, like, man, there's something that has switched on with them, that the normal people of this earth and of this world, mate, there's, I'm talking about people in the cities, mate, that are so focused on other things where, if you want to see a bit of something in your life or something different, you go out into the stars, mate, and there's a lot of stuff out there, but there's a lot in the bush, and that wasn't the end of what else happened on that, on that property, mate. Look, there's another incident where I've seen another UFO. I was coming from work, and I used to have a nulla in my car, and every time I used to drive, I used to see kangaroos on the side of the road. And people just hit these kangaroos, mate, and it was just, they're leaving an animal, to die in pain. So I ended up, I was coming home one night, it was winter time, because, the dark time come around, 5:30, 6 o'clock, and it would have been about 6:30, and then I seen this thing in the light, and there was this kangaroo, and it was just, so I got out and I put it out of its misery. I know you're not supposed to do that, but I did. No, I'm not going to leave an animal like that. So I end up, what I do, and with these animals, or any animal, is I put it out of its misery, and then I'll put my hand on its heart, and I wait for the last heartbeat, and I ask for, my ancestors to take the spirit and take that spirit to where it needs to go. And I just left it at that, and then all the animals that I've done that to, the kangaroos and then whatever else was on the road, I've always done that and give that spirit back to where it needs to go. And I was coming to the property, and I just pulled up at the property, and I can see it to my right, like to the south kind of thing. This massive, there were three of them, they're like in a triangle. They were massive, big lights, and it was like they were communicating with each other. And like I said, they were just there for me to see, for me to witness. And as quick as they come, they've gone. And I was thinking, wow, like, how many other people are seeing this? And
do you get the impression that these UFO encounters that you had and this might sound cheesy, but for your eyes only type of thing?
Yeah. But I know for a fact I was going to a mate, and this mate of mine, we used to talk about stuff like this and what's his experience and what I've experienced in my life, and we used to sit there for hours just talking. And there was me, him, and his our friend. She was there, and we're sitting around the fire, and we're just looking up at the stars. And Cade, we seen two of them. Like on Star Wars, they were going around, like the ships and that they were fighting. Like what do you call it? They were like playing a game with each other.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and there was one in the front and one at the back. The one at the back was chasing it, and it was going and it was doing these loops, and it wasn't a plane or anything. This was like, as you say, like deep. It was right in the darkness of the universe, kind of thing, of the stars. And I showed those two, and they looked up and they seen it. So there's three of us that seen it that night. And I said to them, I said, wonder how many other people are looking up at this time and seeing this. And yeah, and that's the only person except for, I suppose my ex-wife and my father. Like I said, the first email that I sent you was, the first encounter I come was this massive big one that come over my father's house. You know, like, yeah. And it was like, you know, at that early age, you know, and my siblings and, you know, the people that I talk to and that they've never seen UFOs. And it's, like you're saying, that whether it's just for my eyes only, it probably is.
And the thing is, you know, people like yourself, Neil, who seem to be more open to this type of, I guess, world is the way to say it, seem to encounter these things more often than those who aren't. So, yeah. You know, for me, it's really no surprise that you have the encounters that you have, because not to say that you're chosen, but I think you are very open-minded and very accepting of it all, which, yeah, you know, I think gets you a lot of universal credits to see things that people wouldn't ever get the chance to.
Yeah. And, you know, like, and that's what I mean, Kate, like, you know, that's what I mean. They talk about these voices in your head. I don't have to have voices, mate. I don't know. I don't hear a voice, but it's like something that's come from within you, whether it's your DNA or whether it's just the cells that are in your body. And then one night I was just about to go to bed out of that property, and then I don't know what I was thinking. That I still to the day, and sometimes I think about it. And I remember I don't go out in the wind. When I know there's a wind blowing, there's something on that wind. And I don't know, you know, I never go out into them. And if I'm out and that happens, I stay out. But if I'm in the house and I can hear that, and I can hear that howl, and it's the sound that it makes, you know, through the trees or through the house, and that the howling that it does, I don't go out because there's something on that wind. There's something coming to get something. I know that, and it's
like a message is being delivered.
Yeah, or something on the wind. That's all I can say.
So, Neil, what do you think it is when you see UFOs? What do you think it is? Do you think it's do you think it's like a craft from another planet, or do you think it's something more spiritual?
Yeah, I think it's, you know, that's what I mean. How many dimensions do we have? You know, that's what we're in this physical dimension here, but what we're seeing. You know, like Nikola Tesla, you know, one of his sayings was, you know, to understand the universe, always think in frequency, vibration, and anything. And this is the dimension that, you know, we're talking about right now. And those things, like, and that's what I mean, like, how old is a human race? And I was only saying to I was listening to something last week, and it was about this fella. He said that it's about UFOs, and he said that he has recorded 60 kinds of different outer world beings. And I was just saying to my partner that if there's 60 out there, so does that mean that every human on this earth, every, you know, nationality or creed, is that made by these people or these beings? You know what I mean?
It's a rabbit hole that could go on forever when you get into those mindsets, because there's just so many things that you can explore into those worlds, really.
And see, the thing, like, I know up north and then up in the territory to the west and that, I think over there, but I know here up near Laura, around the area, you know, where there's, even on different other paintings in caves and that, you know, they've got these beings that have got these big eyes, the same eyes as what they call aliens. They're our creators. And that's what I've always thought about, you know, like, if they're painting this and these are thousands years old, you know, what has come to this country now is they're taking us away from a knowledge that we know that is really within us. And that's all cultures.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's what makes the Aboriginal culture so unique and so amazing, is that it's got this untold history that is really passed down to generation, and it's kept so secure. I think it's fantastic.
And see, it's not only the Aboriginal side, mate. Like I remember having a dream one night, and it was so I can remember like it was yesterday. And I know it might be going off the top. I will get back to that what we were talking about before, but we're talking about other cultures. But you know, the other bloodlines that are in me, I'm picking up stuff off that too. Like, you know, my great grandfather, he was an Irishman, and that's all we know, and what his name was, you know. And I remember having this dream, and it was around Stonehenge, and at that time, all I seen was I was walking, and there was these two beings. So my head, you know, I'm about 6'3" kind of thing, and I was walking along, and it was like a takeoff. This is what it was. It was like a takeoff going up to this Stonehenge. It wasn't going to Stonehenge. Stonehenge was on a certain. It was in a distance kind of thing, and all I seen was walking with these fellas, two of them, one on the left and one on the right, and like I said, I'm 6'2", 6'3", something like that. I come up to their knees, and that's how tall these fellas were. And they weren't talking to me. We were telepathically talking. And they were saying, this is a runway. And I said, what do you mean runway? And he said, well, this is a runway. And a runway, what's a runway? It's a craft, and, you know, a plane goes on that. But then they took me to Stonehenge. And, you know, I might be... You know, like I say, I'm careful in what I say over the phone with some things, and you know, like this now, and what they showed me there on with that Stonehenge, like this was all together. You know, there was no pieces taken out, and in the middle there they've got that they've got like a table kind of thing, and in the table, and I've spoke to many people about this, and I've asked their version of what they think it was. And I don't know if this is true, but I'm just telling you what they told me and what they showed me in this dream. And there was like an opaque colour, like an emerald colour, and it was a rock, and it was cut in different directions. So when the summer solstice or the winter solstice come to that certain height, it goes through that, and then it goes to the walls that are around. So every cut, it goes to a different wall. Or on that rock, and there's something that's hidden in there, and that's like that, you know, that blue light the detectors in that use.
Mm.
Yeah, it was like that, and you could only see it. You couldn't see it from a normal eye. You can only see it at the solstice when that light went up on top of the blocks on up on top, down around. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's very, very interesting. I always love a good Stonehenge theory and just a different perspective of it, because it is one of the most fascinating places in the world.
There's one little thing I want to tell you after this is that's on that property now. Like, you know, I was saying, I'll get back to that thing. I'll finish that off, and that's just go outside. So I end up going outside, and I didn't turn the light on. And that night it was, the moon was out. And, you know, it would have been about where the end of the veranda to, probably about 10 minutes to the fence. And then as soon as I walk outside, I could see him. There was seven lines of different Aboriginal people with different paintings on.
Wow, and really?
Yeah, mate, yeah. And I looked at them, and then they went from, you know, the recent 150 years, you know, to up to, not up till now, the last ones that were there. And all they were just coming through, because the Bunya Mountains weren't far from there. And the Bunya Mountains was a place where everyone went every 3 years, or they danced, and the law and everything was on top. So the story around here is about that, the Bunya Mountains. And there were 7 of them. And then going right back at the end were the ancient ones.
Wow. So it's like a bloodline.
Yes. So those ancient ones back then, it was, they were kind of, how would you say? I can't explain it. The faces were like I can't. I'm not going to say that they weren't from out of this world. I don't know, but they were different to our being now. You know what we are now.
What a surreal experience that would have been, and that would have felt like you were the most special person in the world at that moment in time.
Yep. And that's what I've seen 7, and that's what I mean. Numbers. It's all, and some people on numbers and that too. I don't know why they showed me the 7 generations. And I don't know how apart those generations were either. Like the first one could have been 150, and the other one could have been longer, but it showed the different ages from the eldest, the ancients, to the ones up to now. And like I was saying, they come through the wind, and they were going through.
Wow.
And all that's telling me is that they were just coming through.
Neil, you are one of the most interesting people I've ever spoken to, and it's a real pleasure to have you on the show to give us this different perspective to the side of the weird and the unusual that happens in Australia. It's been such an honor talking to you tonight, Neil.
Thanks for having me on, Kate. And like I said, before the other day, me and my missus, we sit around the fire and we had your podcast on the other day, and I was only saying to her, I said, I wonder when Kate's going to look at that email. I wonder if he wants me on there. And I kept, that's what I mean, I kept looking for my email, and then I got it last night. Hey, and like I said, it was just, everything's meant to be at a certain time.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Believe Paranormal and UFO podcast. If you have had an encounter and you would like to share it, please get in touch with me. My email address is believepod@gmail.com. Finally, don't forget to follow us on all our social media outlets, and be sure to join our Discord server to talk to other listeners of the show. You'll find all these links in our show notes. Thank you.